All of those things that I was trying to tackle through my previous work in not-for-profits, I come to realize are really downstream from the money, really downstream from our broken money and broken financial systems. And so we need to go further upstream, tackle those issues so that we can reduce all of these, social challenges that we're trying to remedy.
Hey folks, Phil here with Blockchain North. We're still, and for the last day at the Canadian Bitcoin Conference here in Montreal, I'm here with Scott Wolfe, who is with the Canadian Bitcoin Coalition. Could you please introduce yourself first, who you are, and then we'll talk about BCC.
Sure, happy to. First of all, thanks for the invitation to speak with you and your audience. Again, my name's Scott Wolfe. On a part-time basis, I'm the executive director of this new not-for-profit organization in Canada called the Bitcoin Coalition of Canada. I come to this role after working in the not-for-profit sector in Canada and globally for the past 20 plus years. Most recently, for the last 20 years or so, in community health and development. So my background's not in finance, my background's not in technology. It's really in terms of trying to contribute to Canadian society here through community health centers, addressing, locally relevant issues like access to housing, access, food security, trying to address poverty and issues of lack of access to health and social services locally. And that overlaps with my journey as someone who began to learn about Bitcoin in about 2019 to start to, as many people do, look at it as an investment opportunity, this nascent thing that, maybe should be in someone's personal portfolio, et cetera. And then went on that, what's called that proverbial, down the proverbial Bitcoin rabbit hole, which is just a way of saying that learning journey and seeing that, wow, no, actually there's much more to this. Bitcoin is actually a gateway to really looking at a lot of our challenges, not just in Canada but globally, related to those same issues that I just touched on, and that I addressed in my previous work, and realized that this is a powerful tool for organizations locally, for groups to tackle some of these issues. I have many use cases: financial inclusion, human rights, energy abundance, and tackling climate change. But then also that, all of those things that I was trying to tackle through my previous work in not-for-profits, I come to realize are really downstream from the money, really downstream from our broken money and broken financial systems. And so we need to go further upstream, tackle those issues so that we can reduce all of these, social challenges that we're trying to remedy through other means.
Address them at a fundamental.
A lot of the
work that is being done around the world involves more debt, more subsidies,
That's right.
patchwork, instead of really looking at what the fundamental problem is.
That's right.
So it is the Bitcoin Coalition of Canada.
That's right.
Thank you for the correction. It would be another CBC otherwise, and I think
that's
there's already a few. So including in the
didn't want to confuse.
Absolutely. So what is BCC specifically? Is it a registered lobby? Yes or no? And what does it aim to do, and how, a little bit?
Sure. So we are a federally incorporated not-for-profit corporation. Okay. We just incorporated earlier this year, January 3rd, 2024. Okay. So anyone who is familiar with that date of January 3rd was an important date for us. So January 3rd, 2024, we're federally incorporated. As a not-for-profit corporation, our role is not so much as a lobbyist, but really as an organization to help build awareness of Bitcoin and to help provide opportunities for journalists, for policymakers at a federal, provincial, and municipal levels to learn about Bitcoin, what it is, how it functions, and then all of these reasons why we think Bitcoin adoption, use of Bitcoin, is a net benefit to Canadians and the world. I touched a little bit on that issue of financial inclusion. Also through Bitcoin mining, for instance, is an opportunity for many communities to add jobs, and through taking advantage of our resource abundance in Canada, hydroelectric power, wind, solar, etc., to actually help drive our effort to scale up renewable energy production and mitigate many of the most harmful impacts of climate change, such as escaped methane, flared gas, et cetera. So we think there are many reasons that policymakers at municipal, provincial, federal levels in Canada should really be studying and embracing Canada as an opportunity to build a prosperous Canada, not just for today, but for future generations. But also part of our commitment to the global community, the way that Bitcoin really helps to bolster human rights in communities around the world, the way that it's helping bank the unbanked in many communities around the world. And it's a beautiful, perhaps unprecedented example of how we can align our bottom line and our interests here in Canada with the bottom line and interests of communities around the world. And so we're incredibly optimistic about the opportunities it portends for Canadians, for our country, but as part of our commitments globally.
So we're going to talk about awareness and raising awareness, because that's really your key mission. But before we do, just a little bit of a sort of an assessment of the Canadian market. First of all, what is the level of awareness about Bitcoin in Canada today?
I'd say it's still rudimentary. There are a couple of issues. My sense is that we're past the point of people not having heard the word Bitcoin or hearing about Bitcoin. They know about it, the thing, the thing, the name, etc. There's still a lot of confusion, conflating Bitcoin with other crypto assets. The idea that Bitcoin perhaps is this physical thing and not that it's digital, etc. So there's still a lot of work to do to demystify and educate people about what it actually is, how it functions, and how it's distinct from that broader landscape of altcoins and exchanges that offer all of these various tokens. We say that we use the term Bitcoin, not crypto, as a way to try to help people understand that there is something distinct about Bitcoin.
Sure.
And I think we're making inroads in that respect, but it's going to take a lot more time, and that's part of our mission.
And so how are you going to raise awareness? I mean, there are many, well-known ways, of course, from, I guess, one-on-one meetings with a lot of perhaps the political leaders or the media. There is social media. There is attending events like this one, I suppose, where you just spoke on a panel. I mean, what are your tactics right now as you just start and in the coming, let's say, couple of years?
All of the above. I mean, taking advantage of, the low-hanging fruit of social media, of a website which can act as a central portal to information and resources, taking advantage of those means that, are just sort of provided, build it, and that's a means of people, having a first touch point with information about Bitcoin. But to your point as well, helping support groups that are taking root across the country to establish local Bitcoin meetups, which are ways for, folks who don't know anything about Bitcoin to sort of come and ask questions. Also a place for people who, are on their Bitcoin journey to connect with other Bitcoiners and, troubleshoot issues related to, for instance, how to self-custody Bitcoin and all sorts of adjacent issues. Well, as I mentioned, the human rights aspects of it, financial inclusion, and so forth. So really, we want to be a sort of network of networks to help, groups on the ground across Canada, first of all, to establish more of those sort of local meetups, but also to help them network with each other and learn from each other, scale their activities, refine how it is that they, provide a sort of safe and welcoming entry point for people who don't really know anything about Bitcoin and want to learn. But also to help network and scale educational initiatives. We've heard a little bit about educational initiatives like Mi Primer Bitcoin, Dream Grad Academy, Access Tribe, the Bitcoin Students Network, Bitcoin Mentor. So Canadian initiatives or global initiatives that have a Canadian presence that are providing a course of education and awareness building to help them connect with each other and also find, new audiences. So that's a big part of it too, is helping amplify what's happening on the ground, helping amplify the work that content creators are doing and bring increased visibility to it. And without casting aspersions on like the other crypto landscape, really just to help people understand that there is, again, something distinct about Bitcoin, why people should be paying attention to Bitcoin as a unique asset and unique ecosystem of activities, and to distinguish it from crypto and crypto exchanges, so that it receives, as well, the due consideration in policy and regulation that it merits, and is not confused with some of the things that we've unfortunately seen with, crypto exchanges like
I want to hone in on that
in the States, and so forth.
That relationship between Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency ecosystem, because of course we're here at a Bitcoin conference, so we're hearing a lot of I would even call them attacks, let's say, on the rest of the industry, and that's fair game. I think it's just people, sharing their opinions. But it's undeniable, I think, that the rest of the crypto ecosystem is meaningful, just gauging the market capitalization, the adoption by a lot of corporations around the world from platforms like Ethereum, and especially perhaps Solana as well. What I've always wondered is, I'm definitely passionate about Bitcoin, and I completely understand it's, at least at a basic level, its value. But I sometimes am surprised when I hear pretty hard, offensive even language from the Bitcoin community towards, what they call the shitcoiners or the crypto casino. Or from a communications point of view, given how much experience you have in a variety of other sectors, is that the best way? Or do you think there is maybe a truly more inclusive and maybe more, I would use the word respectful way to be positioning Bitcoin strongly without saying, that the rest is,
tough to craft a response to that. What I'd say is and I don't presume to speak for others or say that there is a best way. I would say that I think when you hear people talk about, the term shitcoin and whatnot, etc., I think that comes from a very deep sense of grounding in values and a desire to not see people have the rug pulled from under them.
Right.
Let's just be frank that there's a very significant portion of that crypto space, the majority, that have no proven use cases, that in fact are venture capital funded, pump and dump schemes, and we've seen the impact of that. And I think that there's such a strong sense of among Bitcoiners of the importance of Bitcoin and its use cases for financial inclusion, for human rights, tackling climate change, and building better societies, building healthier communities, and tackling some of these problems that we see in the way of the decaying aspects of societies. That the fact that these crypto rug pulls end up being a setback for Bitcoin adoption because people conflate them is what causes that strong reaction. And so I identify with that.
Okay.
I choose to go about it in a different way. That's
obvious on the panel.
That's just me. Yeah. But I'm not in opposition to that. And I think Bitcoin is a movement. I'd say in some cases explicitly. I'd say in some cases, in all cases at least implicitly,
around the fact that it should be apolitical, that it can be embraced by both sides of the aisle. But the feeling I get when I listen to Bitcoiners is that they're usually more on the right, and they're usually more on the, let's say, even the Trump side.
Yeah, I think that there's a distinction that needs to be made between being apolitical and nonpartisan.
Okay,
I see. So to be nonpartisan is to say that we need to engage all political parties in discussion about this, or multipartisan. Choose your terminology.
Yeah.
And to say that, we want to engage all political parties around the use cases of Bitcoin, its value, and to make sure that, we're not presenting an impression or a case that, Bitcoin is only if I align in terms of partisan politics one way or the other. I think to say it's apolitical is to mistake, the fact that anything like this, which has, social implications, can be apolitical. Implicitly, at least, it is political in that we're making decisions and choices about what we choose to assign value to, how we believe, we can move forward, building better societies, communities. It is a vote. It's a political vote at the level of, society. layer zero.
Yeah,
layer one is on chain. Layer two are the Lightning Network and others to come. Layer zero is us, right? It's the people. It's a movement at the layer of level zero to really connect us and try to, from the grassroots up, cast our vote about what we believe a healthy society should look like, and how we can, through the basis of money and market, the market place, actually rebuild society. And in so doing, both here in Canada and globally, I think it's pretty clearly a political movement.
Yeah.
But I think we try to be non-partisan or multi-partisan in our approach to engaging political structures.
Yeah, thank you for unpacking that so clearly. I appreciate that a lot. And I guess I have to ask you about Joel Lightbound, because that seems to be almost like, when you look at the yin-yang sign, like on the sort of opposite side of the political spectrum. I say that because, again, I do believe that crypto tends to lean a bit more right. And there's someone in that, reigning political party right now for almost a decade, who not only understands it, but is willing to get out there and advocate. What do you make of that? I mean, is that extremely encouraging? Is that an anomaly, maybe?
It's perhaps more of an anomaly, generally speaking, not necessarily just to do with Bitcoin or crypto, but just generally speaking. I mean, we live in such a world of partisan politics now, where, I think there's an increased sense that elected officials from a political party need to, toe the official line or align with the prescribed vision of that political party's policy. So I really commend Mr. Lightbound on taking a step forward and leading through his convictions and brief conversations I've had with him. One of the things that I think a lot of people who've been on the Bitcoin journey is like, once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? And so it comes, I think, from his perspective. I don't presume to speak for him, but I think it comes from a deep sense, deep grounding in values and a commitment to really wanting to be an elected official who is acting in the best interest of his constituents and the country. And so stepping forward to say, let's study this, let's look at it. I've taken the time, to do so over the past 5 or more years. And I really believe that there's something important here that can unify Canadians, that's of value to our society, and that, people of all political parties should take a look at. This shouldn't be a contentious thing. But unfortunately, we now inhabit a world of partisan politics that's, sometimes the theater of politics, very often the sport of politics. And I think that causes a barrier in terms of some people from political parties, taking a look at that. But the example of Mr. Lightbound, of Ben Lopp on the side of the Conservatives at a federal level, and others, hopefully, as people sort of take that step step forward, that step into the gap. That's leadership, absolutely. And he's not. None of them are promoting this, saying you must or you should, etc. It starts with study this, and we think it'll lead you to some of the same conclusions that we've arrived at. That this has, many potential benefits for our country.
Yeah, that's clear. As we wrap up, I want to ask you, you've again been around the block in the world of not-for-profits, and it's always, I think it's actually much more entrepreneurial than people imagine. You set up something from nothing, and you have some clear goals and probably a lot of expectation as well from the Bitcoin community here in Canada. What are the challenges that you are already facing or anticipate you'll be facing based on that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I guess as with any organization or any movement, it's the slow build of going from 0 to 1, and once you get to 1, how do you get from 1 to 2? Yeah. There's so in the context of so many things to do, and there's so much interest on the part of Bitcoiners across Canada to move forward an organization like this. Where do you go next? So strategically, we've decided to start with education and public engagement, feeling that as we work with local meetups and local networks and educational initiatives, that will help to engender awareness, and it'll help to create that next wave of people who are onboarded to Bitcoin, that then gives us a bit more critical mass, and hopefully those are people who will be willing to support our not-for-profit organization a little bit. We need resources to be able to carry forward the work. So, that's another aspect is how do we, get the resources that we need.
And I was going to ask about that, actually, the resources and the support. So how can people engage with you? What kind of support are you seeking?
Thank you for asking. At the moment, we started with a campaign. People can donate sats to us. Those are, for anyone who's watching this who doesn't know what sats are. Sats are the small units of Bitcoin. There are 100 million sats per Bitcoin. So if you've got some, or if you're just getting into Bitcoin, you can go to our website. There's a donate option there, which will lead you to our campaign on the Geyser Fund. Geyser Fund is a global platform for crowdfunding initiatives through Bitcoin. So we'd be very grateful for anyone watching this who wants to contribute to our efforts to throw a few sats our way to help us. We also have a Get Involved campaign now that we just sort of launched now. I'll provide you the link as well to form anyone who's interested in Bitcoin, who has particular interests in education, research, policy, and government relations. If they want to be involved, they can share their information with us, and we'll be reaching back out over the months ahead. A lot of this work is going to be driven by Bitcoiners on the ground across Canada through committees, an education committee, research, policy, so forth. We want this to be a collective movement that's sort of embedded in the name coalition. Yeah. Really, it's a movement of us, and it's not a standalone, third-party organization that's just going to somehow come from on high and, cause all these miraculous changes. It's going to be a groundswell from people and communities across the country. So, let us know you want to be involved. Follow us on social media. All of our social media handles
all these on screen
are on our website. Help to amplify our messages. Drive people to our website to look at our educational materials. Hopefully those are good sort of first touch points. And I think it's with all of those efforts to just kind of build awareness slowly over the next little bit. That'll get us, maybe we're at 1 now, to help us to get from 1 to 2.
Nice. Scott, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you
very much. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
It's not easy.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.